Go back to Luke 19, verse 45. And he went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in it, saying, "It is written, my house is a house of prayer, and you've made it a den of thieves." And he was teaching daily in the temple. And the chief priests and the scribes and the leaders of the people sought to destroy him and were unable to do anything, for all the people were very attentive to him. Now, what was this all about? Was this an explosion of anger? Was Jesus having a temper tantrum? Hardly. It was righteous indignation. He goes into the temple, he assesses the situation, and then he comes back to take action. Whenever God displays anger, it's for a reason. The Gospel of Mark gives us a few more details about this. In Mark 11:15, we read, "When they arrived back in Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out the merchants and their customers." Listen, "he knocked over the tables of the money changers and the stalls of those selling doves." I love this. What happened to that benign hippie Jesus? You know, the one we see in religious art, that scrawny little dude that couldn't lift a branch off the ground. Well, you know what? That's not the Jesus of the Bible. That's the Jesus of weird religion. The Jesus of the New Testament was strong. Well, how do you know that, Greg? Well, he was a carpenter by trade. He built things. He built chairs and tables and houses and carts. He worked hard. Also, we know that when he stood before Pontius Pilate, and Pilate decided to scourge him, and he took it. Afterwards, Pilate pointed to the scourged, beaten, bloody Jesus, who still stood in his own power, and he said, "Ecce homo," which means, "Behold the man." Jesus was the man. He was a man's man, really. He carried a 400-pound cross on his shoulder after being scourged through the streets of Jerusalem. Let's see you bodybuilders pull that off. Yeah, he was a man. So he overturned tables, and these were big tables. And by the way, you want to make a point, overturn a table. You know, if you're in a restaurant, you don't like your food, I mean, you know what'll happen? You'll get thrown out. You'll probably get arrested. You'll certainly make a point. "I didn't like this omelet." Yeah. But you see, you've seen it in so many Westerns. It's like, it makes me laugh whenever I watch a Western, because there's certain things that are the same in all Westerns. For instance, in the saloon, okay? You go through those doors, and here's what you always see. There's the bar, and there's the barkeep, you know, usually kind of cleaning the bar, and a couple of cowboys sitting there, you know. And then there's always the piano player. Now, he always wears a little derby hat, right? It's a law of Westerns. And he has little garter belts here, boom, boom, you know, pulling the sleeve. Bing, 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 bing. Little upright piano, has to be an upright piano. And it's always that stupid song he's playing. Okay, now, over to the table where the guys are gambling. One of the cowboys looks at the other and says, "You're cheating." "I ain't cheating." "Yes, you are." He turns the table over. The cards and chips go flying. The piano player always stops. Bing, 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 bing. He dives under a table. Fist fights break out. Guns start firing. You've seen the scene. It's a violent act to overturn a table, and Jesus knew it. He was provoking them. But how does this square with the statement of Christ in Matthew 11:29 when he says, "I am meek and humble in heart"? I think that's why in religious art, Jesus always looks so meek. You know, really, he looks weak, doesn't he? Weak. "I won't hurt you." That's not Jesus. He's meek. See, it's because people don't know what meekness is. Meekness is not weakness. Like, let's say you're a scrawny little dude and some big muscular guy kicks sand in your face on the beach. You know, like those little things in the back of comic books when I was a kid. Always something to tell you how you can get in shape. And the little guy doesn't fight back. Why? Because he can't, okay? So let's say some bully picks on you and you don't strike back. Is that because you're meek? No, it's because you're afraid. And you're weak and you don't have the ability to stop him. But let's say you're trained in mixed martial arts and the guy harasses you and you don't strike back. Is that because you're meek? No, weak? No, that's because you're meek. Because meekness means power under constraint. It's the idea of a horse, a mighty stallion, and you have the bit in, and you pull it in, and you're controlling the power. That's the idea of meekness. Jesus reined it in. Oh, I'm not going to strike back. You know, when they arrested him in Gethsemane and led him away and chains, you think those chains could hold him? They would be like tissue. He could have just gone, poof. Oh, no, what are you going to do to me now? Oh, you're going to come at me with those swords. What am I going to do? Peter, help me. To show you his power, when they came into Gethsemane to arrest him, he said, whom do you seek? They said, Jesus of Nazareth. He said, I am. That's the same God that said, let there be light, and there was light. I am. And it says they all fell backwards. I mean, can you see that scene? They're there with their swords and their spears and their shields and like dominoes collapsing on the ground. He could have said, I am, and you were. Bye. Problem over. No, it was meekness. He did not defend himself. He went to the cross for our sins. But here he displays anger. Why? Because these people were keeping others from God.